Bob, I told everybody ahead of time that it rarely rains on a Bob Weimer field trip. I didn't promise no rain, I just said rarely rains.
We just ignore it, huh?
We do. I didn't mention the snow part, did I?
Yeah.
We used to go out with brooms, the outcrop with Bob.
I was on a lecture tour at the University of Wisconsin sometime, and the professor showed up, introduced me, and he had a picture of field trip. And it was November and there's a light snowfall, and we didn't want to cancel the field trip, so he took a picture of a student sweeping off the outcrops. Okay, we're ready to go, are we, Chris?
Yes, we
All
are.
right, thank you. Well, welcome to all of you who've been off campus and came back, and new ones that are here, and some very old friends, Dean here, that came back as well. This trail starts down at the museum as stop one, and the brochure you have has a geologic map like this one, and it tracks the trail from the museum up to West Campus Drive to stop 2, and then 3, 4, and 5 are in the freshman parking lot here, just north of us, and then the trail goes down to 12th Street and Campbell Field for 6 and 7, and we'll hope to do all that in a couple hours. I'm reminded wherever I stand here of a description in the Mines catalog by Arthur Lakes in 1890. There weren't many students around or many buildings, but the main thing he wrote in that description was about how wonderful the geology was and how unique it was and important to the students that come here to study geology. And I guess what I've done in the years that I've worked on this program is follow those words of wisdom and try to leave something that's of value to each of you as an individual if you're interested in the geology of the mountain front and of the Mines campus. Many of you have helped work on it, done maintenance and so on, and we thank you all for that. Unique setting are 2 crustal blocks that have moved through time, but most recently during the Weimer orogeny, starting about 70 to 55. And one crustal block is the main block, composed of Precambrian geology that dates 1.7 billion years. And you see that high ground that's standing there. Those rocks are resistant to erosion. That area of uplift forms high topography. The other block is the basin block. This block here to the east of us has subsided at the time that range was going up. And the effect of that is that there are several thousand feet of what they call synorganic sediments here, exposed on the campus and to the east of us. Synorganic meaning that the sediments were deposited at the time that that block was subsiding. And in between the 2 blocks, the Denver Basin block and the Front Range Mountain block, you see these sediments that have been deformed and turned up to vertical to slightly overturn. And it's always been a bit of a mystery as to exactly how you get these little pieces of vertical to overturned rock between rocks there that are dipping 3 or 4 degrees to the southeast, and then these igneous and metamorphic rocks on the upthrown block. Now the formation that we're looking at here, the main one exposed on the campus, is the Laramie Formation. And it's composed of yellow buff sandstones and gray to dark gray to red shales. And between here and the dormitories or the rec center, did you see at all anything coming up here, Steve?
We're seeing it all for you.
All of the playing fields here that you see reclaimed land was from what was originally a clay mining operation. That was started in 1862 or a little later by the Parfitt family, and there have been 4 generations of that family that have mined clays along here. And we'll look at top 3, some of those clays, and discuss their origin and why they're unique to this particular place. The older formations to the west, and we'll only see the very upper part of them. Let's go to stop 1. That you have on the stratigraphic column there are the formations known as the Marine Pier Shale, the Laramie Formation, the Arapahoe Conglomerate, and the Denver Formation capped here by the lava flow. Now the formations here we're looking at, the Laramie Formation is, I'll show you the reasons we say it's a freshwater or non-marine deposit. And but beneath those fluvial deposits is marine sandstones and shales of the Pier and Fox Hills. And if I follow onto this panel diagram, and you have this sketch on in your brochure, you'll see that mountain uplift that came up along the Golden Fault. You'll see the 64 million year lava flows with the tertiary Cretaceous boundary a couple hundred feet below those flows, and then the upturned areas of the campus clay pits, which is that vertical sequence in between. There's some other minor faulting which we'll talk about, but that's the major framework. If you drilled a well on the top of Table Mesa, you would drill 12,000 feet to get to the Precambrian. And here it is exposed on the surface by that uplift. You can't expect anything more dramatic than that, so easily exposed out of your lab windows. Okay? Where'd the word Laramide come from? The Laramie Formation. And I've frequently told Steve that if there were a type locality for the Laramide orogeny, the School of Mines campus could be the type locality. It was named for the fact that along the edge of the mountains, as they surveyed in the early days, they saw coal beds upturned at the edge, and the coal beds were part of the Laramie Formation. And as they went through the central Rocky Mountain areas looking for coal and routes for railroads, they called anything that had coal beds, that had steep dip on the flank of the mountains, the Laramie Formation. So when Dana, a professor at Yale, decided to name this orogeny, he decided to call it the Laramide orogeny, from the word Laramie Formation. Later, the USGS restricted the use of the name Laramie Formation to the Denver Basin. And when they did that, of course, they shifted everything over here as to what you would see as the type locality. You probably have used that term, but now you know where it came from.